Kazuya was a pathetic idiot who enrolled in a military academy to get stronger and fight the aliens that murdered his sister. However, everything changes when on his first day there, he meets the strongest baddie in the school and ditches his mission just to crack her. The story begins several years in the future, when giant alien mechs named Nova invaded Earth to terraform it. To defeat them, humanity created superhuman females called Pandoras, but along the way, young Kazuya's sister, the most powerful Pandora, sacrificed herself to save everyone, leaving him scarred for life. Years after her death, Kazuya decides to enroll in the same academy that trained her to honor her memory and join the fight against Novas. On transfer day, he visits his sister's grave and reminisces about his memories with her when the academy's student council president, Chiffon, suddenly arrives in a chopper to pick him up. On the way to the academy, Chiffon tells Kazuya about Pandoras and further explains that they often pair with male partners, called limiters, to fight at full capacity. Upon their arrival, Chiffon takes Kazuya on a tour. Just then, a Pandora partaking in the event, Ganesa, falls through the roof on top of them, with her melons exposed.
Wow! Beautiful!
And immediately covers up when she sees Kazuya. Suddenly, her opponent, Satella, jumps in to finish her. However, when Kazuya sees Satella, he mistakes her for his deceased sister and forcefully hugs her. Shocked, Satella loses her balance, and they both fall, causing Kazuya to bury his face in her chest pillows.
Yeah, boy.
As Satella tries to shake him off, she turns red as her biological sprinkler system activates and unleashes freezing, a reaction that happens when a Pandora and a limiter bond. Noticing the distraction, Ganesa lands a finishing blow on Satella and ends the battle as the winner. Later that evening, news about Satella's first ever defeat spreads around the academy like wildfire, and this shocks everybody because Satella, aka the Untouchable Queen, has never lost a battle before. Meanwhile, Chiffon continues the tour, politely trash-talking Kazuya for touching Satella inappropriately and causing her first ever loss. Feeling sorry, Kazuya asks Chiffon if he can meet Satella and apologize, but Chiffon warns him never to do that because she is sure Satella will murder him just for touching her. Just then, Satella arrives from the bus with her face bandaged up and walks past Chiffon and Kazuya. Seeing her, Kazuya tries to apologize for earlier, but she ignores him, so he grabs her hand, causing her to remember her lonely, traumatized past self and stumble in embarrassment. She then gets up and tries to leave, but when Kazuya grabs her hand again, she summons her weapon and gives him his last warning. At that moment, Ganesa shows up and trash-talks Satella for being a sore loser and venting on a poor underclassman. As a crowd gathers, she continues rage-baiting Satella and challenges her to a duel just to prove her superiority in front of everybody. Once Satella accepts, she summons her void weapon, a special weapon used by Pandoras, and attacks her. When Satella dodges, Ganesa lunges at her and rushes her with a barrage of attacks mid-air, but Satella easily deflects them and slashes Ganesa's upper torso, leaving both her milkers out for all to see. Embarrassed, Ganesa goes all out, activating Pandora mode, which is only meant to be used against Novas, and pushes Satella away. As she falls, Kazuya catches her and helps her back to her feet. However, Satella is so shocked that his touch didn't make her feel irritated that she forgets her weapon and walks away. Seizing the opportunity, Ganesa binds Satella with her chains and repeatedly slashes her. Afterwards, she tries to cut off Satella's right arm, but Kazuya steps up and begs Ganesa to just go home with her win. Irritated, Ganesa crashes out and slaps the little cockroach for ruining her fight. At that moment, a few drops of Kazuya's blood lands on Satella's face, causing her to unleash a huge energy explosion and activate her Pandora mode. Despite being shocked, Ganesa continues attacking Satella, but to everyone's surprise, Satella calmly dodges the attacks and knocks Ganesa down with a single strike. As she's about to finish her, two of the academy's instructors, Yumi and Eleze, arrive, block her, and warn her to deactivate her Pandora mode to avoid more trouble. So Satella reverts to her normal form. By nightfall, Kazuya locates his dorm room, spots his classmate, Arthur, and invites him in. After the niceties, Kazuya asks Arthur about Satella, but Arthur warns him never to get involved with her because she's a man-hating Twitter feminist everybody is afraid of. He then introduces Ganesa as his Pandora partner and starts simping for her, but Kazuya avoids telling him what she did earlier to avoid trouble. Around midnight, Satella is in her bathroom, thinking about Kazuya and craving his touch without understanding why. Meanwhile, a third-year student named Miyabi checks out Kazuya's photo in her lair and immediately decides to baptize him in her love juices so that he can become her limiter. The next day, Yumi introduces Kazuya to his new class, but because of his cute face, the girls immediately start fantasizing over him slurping their milk jugs. Meanwhile, Arthur is at the infirmary, looking after Ganesa and simping over her. Since he doesn't really know about her fight with Satella, he asks her how she got injured when she literally just won the academy's tournament. but Ganesa just tells him to mind his business. During lunch break, Kazuya's class rep, Hiragi, introduces herself to him and shows him around the cafeteria. Upon seeing how high class and organized the food is, Kazuya recoils in shock, but Hiragi tells him it's a perk that comes with schooling there. While they eat, Hiragi playfully mimics Kazuya's mannerisms during Satella and Ganesa's fight, and asks why he stuck his neck out for Satella. When Kazuya tells her it's because he caused Satella's loss at the tournament, Hiragi recoils in shock and warns him, as Arthur joins them, never to get involved with Satella because she's crazy. Hearing this, Kazuya gets upset, but as he trash talks Hiragi for criticizing someone she doesn't know, Satella walks in, farming aura left and right, and buys her lunch. As she's about to leave, Kazuya grabs her hand again, shocking everyone, and tries to apologize for earlier, but Satella gets so embarrassed that she drops her lunch and leaves. Confused, Kazuya follows her to the rooftop, returns her lunch, and apologizes for sabotaging her fight with Ganesa and breaking the academy rules, too. Hearing this, Satella shyly says she only saved him because he tried to save her, causing Kazuya to smile and praise her for being kind. He then holds her and asks her limiter, unaware that Arthur and Hirage are eavesdropping on them, and this surprises Satella. However, before she can respond, Miyabi shows up with 3 of her diehard simps, introduces herself, and trash talks Satella for trying to baptize Kazuya in such a place. At that time, Hirage tells Arthur that Miyabi is just a dirty lowlife who baptizes pretty boys and uses them for a short while. Knowing this, Satella tries to leave quietly to avoid trouble, but Miyabi calls her back and forces her to greet her. After that, Kazuya runs after Satella, but Miyabi grabs him, gets dangerously close to him, and declares her intention to baptize him. To her shock, Kazuya refuses her advances and tries to run back to Satella, but Miyabi has her boys block him and promises to punish him. At that moment, Satella places her weapon on Miyabi's neck and swears to decapitate her if she touches Kazuya, but Miyabi becomes so irritated by the disrespect that she slams Satella to the ground and summons her homing daggers to teach her a lesson. Once Satella gets back up, Miyabi throws her dagger at her, but Satella blocks it. At this, Miyabi unleashes a speed ability called Excel Turn and teleports behind Satella. However, just as she is about to land the finishing blow, Satella also uses Excel to get behind Miyabi and attack her. Miyabi dodges the strike, and the two continue battling on equal footing. After a brief pause, she and Satella lunge at each other, but in the end, Miyabi ends up with a nasty cut on her face and shrieks like a banshee. The moment she regains her senses, Miyabi loses control of her emotions, swears to humiliate Satella, and has her simps cast a freezing area that immobilizes Satella and Kazuya. As she slowly walks towards Satella to finish her off, Satella leaps out of the freezing area to escape, shocking Miyabi. However, the moment she returns to save Kazuya, Miyabi strikes back, stabbing her repeatedly with her homing daggers and pinning her to the ground. She then grabs Satella, sucker punches her in the stomach, and demands that she apologize for cutting her face. When Satella refuses, she rips her clothes off, exposing her fun bags, and has her simps beat Kazuya black and blue. After that, she grabs Satella's melons, caresses them like a dignified Diddy disciple, activating Satella's floodgates, and pushes Satella to the ground. Then she pulls down Satella's undies, exposing her vanilla-flavored dump truck, and makes her simps take incriminating pictures of poor Satella so they can post them online and humiliate her even more. At this point, Kazuya decides he can't take this anymore, so he breaks out of the simp's freezing area on his own and accidentally casts his freezing area over Miyabi and the other 3, immobilizing them, while Miyabi just stares at Kazuya, shocked that he activated freezing without partnering with a Pandora. Satella pops up behind her. Around the same time, someone informs Chiffon that there's trouble on the rooftop, but when she gets there, she finds Satella on top of Miyabi, who is begging her for forgiveness and promising never to cross her again, and orders her to stop. As Satella ignores her, Yume and Elise show up to stop the fight, but Kazuya traps them all in his freezing area, sees his sister's apparition again, and reminds Satella that Pandoras fight the Novas, not each other. Realizing he's right, Satella powers down and leaves the scene. Later that evening, Elise researches Kazuya's genetic makeup and tells Yumi, who's right beside her, that she discovered that Kazuya possesses the same genetics as his late sister, even though he's a male and can cast freezing without a Pandora partner. Meanwhile, Chiffon bandages Kazuya's cheek wound and warns him one more time to avoid moving with Satella because now that she's disrespected a senior, the third years who watch the entire fight will be forced to react. Around that same time, a third-year Pandora named Ingrid and her limiter, Leo, are at a vantage point, about to undergo a simulation battle with a Type B Nova. Once they're ready, Ingrid dives down to the ground, activating Pandora mode with Leo's freezing, and lands very close to the Nova. As it attacks her, she dodges at super speed, activates her ultimate technique, Tempest Turn, which splits her into 5 clones, and slashes the Nova's core to expose it. After that, she slashes the core, destroying the monster, and ends the simulation battle. On their way back to class, another third-year student, Atia, approaches her and asks her to take care of the untouchable queen to protect their honor, leaving Ingrid shocked. A week later, Yume releases Satella from the academy's prison, but as Satella returns to her dorm, Ingrid approaches her and introduces herself as a third-year student. Hearing this, Satella immediately clocks her as an enemy and summons her weapon. However, before any fighting happens, Ingrid tells her to find herself a limiter by noon the next day so they can fight on equal footing, and leaves, unaware that Hiragi just overheard their conversation. Soon after, Hiragi rushes back to her dorm and tells Kazuya and Arthur everything she heard Ingrid tell Satella. Shocked, Kazuya rushes out of the room and heads straight for Satella's room to talk to her. Meanwhile, Satella is sitting in her bathtub, thinking back to the moment Kazuya requested to be her limiter, only to realize that she's craving his touch again. Before long, Kazuya arrives at her room and lets himself in, only to realize that she's not around. As he's about to leave, he spots Satella's diary on her bed and tries to read it. Just then, Satella steps out of the bathroom wearing nothing but a towel, spots her diary dangerously close to Kazuya, and immediately lunges at him to stop him from reading it. In the struggle, she crashes into Kazuya, causing them both to fall, and ends up sitting on top of him. Right after, her towel falls off, exposing her melons.
I'm gonna come.
And this puts Kazuya's meat on life support. At this, Satella screams in shock, quickly covers herself in embarrassment, and asks Kazuya why he is there. Kazuya asks whether she's considering making him her limiter, but Satella rejects the offer. Confused, Kazuya tells her he knows she's scheduled to fight a third-year student the next day and will need his help, but Satella refuses and tells him to leave. Later that evening, Satella infiltrates Ingrid's dorm room to fight her without her limiter around, thinking Ingrid would be weak without him. But to her surprise, Ingrid grabs her by the head, holds her out of the window, and trash talks her for thinking that. Satella immediately kicks her away and lands safely on the ground. But right after, Ingrid activates her void weapon and charges at her. Sensing the danger, Satella activates her weapon and does her best to dodge Ingrid's attacks. But at one point, Ingrid strikes the wall and causes the entire building to shake violently, alerting the students, including Kazuya. As Kazuya rushes outside to investigate, Ingrid continues overwhelming poor Satella, kicking and beating her up any way she can, until Satella realizes that Ingrid is indeed stronger than she thought. Knowing this, she gets up, activates Axel, speed jumps around Ingrid, and tries to pull a fast one on Ingrid. To her surprise, Ingrid easily blocks her, breaking her weapon in the process. Then she activates her ultimate clone technique, Tempest Turn, and has them give Satella another beating. By that time, some first-year male students peep out of their dorm window to watch the fight, and Leo shows up and distracts Ingrid. Seizing the opportunity, Satella jumps back to safety, raring for another battle. However, before that, Ingrid gives her one more chance to baptize a limiter from the boys watching them, so they can fight each other equally. She then calls out to the boys, asking if they'll help Satella, but when nobody responds, she gets ready to fight. Just then, Kazuya shows up and volunteers to help Satella out. Despite her surprise, Ingrid gives Satella some time to baptize him. Kazuya kneels before his queen and begs her to baptize him, but Satella refuses, claiming that the ritual makes her feel like she's being SA'd and that she hates it. Irritated, Ingrid realizes she's wasting time on Satella, so she activates her powers with Leo's freezing, which immobilizes Satella and lunges at Satella to finish her off. At the last minute, Kazuya activates his own freezing and repels Ingrid, causing her to realize that Kazuya is the real threat. As she approaches him, Satella slashes her chest to keep her off, but Ingrid gets so pissed that she demands to know why they're hellbent on staying disrespectful. Hearing this, Kazuya also asks why she's so fixated on discipline, but Ingrid ignores him and continues fighting Satella like her Burger King coupons are on the line. Meanwhile, Ganesa approaches Kazuya and tells him why Ingrid is such a disciplinarian. It all began a year ago, when a Type S Nova suddenly appeared during an off-campus academy carnival for first-year students. The attack caused their platoon to break formation, and the Nova slaughtered every student participating, including Ingrid's best friend, Marin, the platoon leader. When reinforcements finally arrived, the Nova was eliminated, but by then, it was already too late, as Marin died in Ingrid's arms. With that said, Ganesa explains that Ingrid believes the first year's failure to follow orders is what led to Marin's death. which is why she's so big on discipline. By then, Leo manages to trap Satella in his freezing area, but Kazuya immediately shatters it and immobilizes both Ingrid and Leo instead, leaving Ingrid shocked. Before long, Satella knee kicks Leo, knocking him to the ground, and charges at Ingrid. Desperate, Ingrid enters her full Pandora mode, allowing her to move within Kazuya's freezing area even without her limiter, and slowly approaches Satella while wondering whether she is truly doing the right thing. With no time to lose, she pins Satella to the ground and tries to finish her off. Just then, Kazuya amplifies the power of his freezing area, pins Ingrid to the ground, and assures the grieving woman that her best friend died upholding the beliefs of a Pandora. Irritated, Ingrid tells him to shut up, but Kazuya reveals his true identity as the legendary Pandora, Aoi Kazua's brother, and almost immediately, Ingrid's countenance changes. At that same time, Ganesa presents herself as one of the survivors of the incident back then, and assures Ingrid that Marin sacrificed her life for them to escape because she knew that greenhorn Pandoras like them, who've never had limiters before, can't face a Nova. Upon hearing this, Ingrid remembers Marin asking about the first year right before she died, and finally understands why. Realizing Kazuya was right, Ingrid powers down and breaks down from the guilt. Soon after, Ganesa leaves, and Kazuya thanks Satella for saving him again, but Satella just blushes without saying a word. The following day, the high priest from a village in the mountains summon a gifted Pandora named Rana, bless her, and send her to Kazuya's academy to find her destined one. Back at the academy, Yume delivers a lecture about Novas to Kazuya's class, explaining that they're aliens that naturally generate a freezing area, and that the role of a limiter is to neutralize said freezing area, so that the Pandora can move freely. Upon hearing this, Hiragi immediately stares at Kazuya and begins to wonder how he can cast a freezing field without being baptized. After classes, she asks Kazuya, with Arthur beside them, how he cast the freezing area during Satella and Ingrid's fight, but Kazuya tells her he doesn't know how, because he was too desperate to save his hoe. Hearing this, Hiragi asks if Satella at least thanked him for saving her, but when Kazuya tells her she didn't do that, Hiragi explodes and makes a big deal out of it. By then, Arthur reminds Kazuya that although Satella is beautiful, nothing good will come from associating with her. That said, Hiragi also joins the pep talk, but while doing so, Satella appears behind them, sending the fear of God into Hiragi and Arthur, and asks Kazuya to follow her to the roof for a private discussion. There, Satella feels Kazuya's touch again, realizes that she isn't disgusted by his touch, and shyly tells Kazuya that she's never felt this way before. Flustered, Kazuya also tells her that he's still a virgin boy like you, and can't describe how he's feeling. He then makes a move to touch her, but Satella walks back, embarrassed, confirms that he can use freezing without her covering him with her love juices, and shyly agrees to let him be her limiter. Meanwhile, Rana arrives at the academy, excited and ready to find her destined one, and begins exploring the campus. Not long after, Satella buys Kazuya some lunch, but as they eat, she begins radiating pheromones like a lioness in heat, and nervously tells him she wants him to come to her room that night, which he agrees to. On his way back to the dorm, Kazuya spots Rana checking the campus map and wonders who she is. Just then, Rana hugs him tightly and has him take her to the principal's office. Afterward, Kazuya heads back outside to make his way to Satella's room, but Hiragi and Arthur spot him and join him on the walk to the dorm. Along the way, Kazuya tells them that Satella is now his Pandora, but Hiragi is not happy about it because Satella never baptized him. As she and Arthur keep urging him to reject her, claiming she is just playing with him, Kazuya tells them that Satella already invited him to her room that night to prove she is serious about their partnership, leaving the duo shocked. Hiragi then explains that the room invitation custom is a sweet thing in which a Pandora invites her limiter to her room for one night, so they can clap each other's cheeks and strengthen their bonds. By then, Arthur tells them that Ganesa once invited him so they could take each other's V-card, but he passed out from being too drunk and fumbled the whole thing. Before long, they arrive at Kazuya's dorm. As Kazuya rushes to the entrance, he bumps into 3 second-year Pandoras, who immediately recognize him as Satella's simp and ask if Satella truly agreed to team up with him. When the fool confirms that she did, the girls surround him and push him to the ground. As they're about to beat him, Hiragi rushes out of her hiding place, demanding to know what they're going to do with him, but the girls ignore her, and one of them stomps her foot on Kazuya's chest. Confused, Kazuya demands to know their names. When they introduce themselves, Hiragi realizes that they're the sore losers Satella destroyed during their recently completed carnival, and are targeting him to hurt her. At this, one of the girls slams Hiragi to the ground and rips up her balloon cover as punishment for the disrespect. As the tension rises, Hiragi gets back up, summons her void weapon, and challenges them to a fight. One of the girls chooses to fight her, so Hiragi charges at her and attacks her. Since she lacks experience, the second-year girl dodges everything, gets behind her, and slashes her chest with her void weapon. Seeing this, Arthur decides to go call a teacher, but the third girl approaches him, summons her void weapon, and attacks Arthur. After pinning him down, the first girl stomps on Kazuya's nutsack, while the other two bully poor Arthur and Hiragi. Fed up with the nonsense, Kazuya warns the girls to stop what they're doing, but they ignore him. At this, he gets on his feet, activates his freezing area while Rana happens to be nearby, watching him, and immobilizes the girls. Afterward, he walks towards Arthur to untie him from the chains, but before he gets there, he collapses from exhaustion, releasing the girls. After seeing how troublesome and strong Kazuya actually is, one of the girls summons her void weapon to cut him up. However, at the last minute, Rana shows up, grabs her weapon with her bare hands, and swears to protect Kazuya by all means because she just realized he's her destined one. Hearing this, the girls underestimate Rana and attack her, but Rana evades all their attacks and knocks the three of them out. By nightfall, as Satella struggles to pick a good outfit for her date with Kazuya, Arthur shows up and tells her what happened, so she immediately rushes to the hospital to check on him, only to find Rana already there. Seeing how stressed she looks, Rana tells Satella to calm down and wait for the doctors to clear Kazuya for visitors. But Satella is shocked to see someone care about Kazuya as much as she does, so she asks Rana if she is a student at the academy. As Rana introduces herself as a fresher, Arthur reads the room and immediately gets her out of the picture to see Hiragi, so they won't fight. Right after that, the doctors show up, assure Satella that Kazuya is fine, and urge her to go visit him, which she does. Meanwhile, Rana briefs Arthur and Hiragi about her mission to find a limiter, and then shows them the 6 stigmata on her back. Since stigmata are basically alien tissue that grants Pandoras their power, Arthur is shocked to see that Rana has 6, but he realizes that's why she is so strong, and reassures her that she will find a limiter to pair with. Hearing this, Rana tells him there's no need for that because she's already chosen Kazuya as her partner. Shocked, Arthur tells her Satella's already chosen him, leaving Rana puzzled. Meanwhile, Attia and a few other third-year students are chilling in the academy pool, rooting about the 2 new students, Kazuya and Rana, and expecting something interesting to happen soon. The following day, Kazuya wakes up to find Satella sleeping beside him, so he wakes her and asks if she really stayed by his side all night. Embarrassed, Satella ignores him and walks to the door, but before leaving, Kazuya apologizes for standing her up. Satella assures him that she is perfectly okay since they technically spent the night together, then she leaves. Later that morning, Rana is introduced to Satella's class as a fellow second-year student. The moment Satella spots her, she immediately recognizes her as the nuisance who was clamoring for Kazuya the previous night and does her best to keep quiet, only for Rana to sit beside her and declare her intention of stealing Kazuya from her. After classes, Alize takes the second years out to the yard for a quick sparring session. After some small talk, she calls out Rana and pits her against Ganesa, one of the best second-year students. With Satella watching from the sidelines, Ganesa activates her Volt weapon, Chains of Binding, and attacks Rana first. However, to everyone's surprise, Rana uses her Volt weapon, a pair of gloves and boots, to block the attack. Then, she leaps high up, lands dangerously close to Ganesa, and rips her balloon cover. She then tries to kick Ganesa, but Ganesa blocks the attack, pushes her away, repairs her clothes, and attacks Rana from all sides. Realizing she can't block it, Rana takes a defensive stance that protects her vital organs from the attack. When Ganesa realizes this, she loses her temper and attacks again, but this time, Rana charges in, dodging everything, and places her fist on Ganesa's stomach. While she activates her ultimate punch, Alize stops the fight instantly and names her the winner. As the other students glaze her, 2 third-year students, Arnett and Creo, who watch the whole fight along with Attia, kickstart their plan to manipulate Rana. During lunch, Arthur and Hiragi sit with Kazuya, express concern about the beating they took, and advise him to stop hanging around with Satella. Irritated, Kazuya tells them to stop badmouthing her, then asks what she did to get the nickname of the Untouchable Queen. In response, Arthur tells him she wounded her former limiter at her old school 2 years ago, beyond the point of recovery. Because of that, Arthur says Satella was suspended for a year before she transferred to their school as a second-year student. He then urges Kazuya to remember how she treated Miyabi and her simps earlier, so he'll understand why they're so worried about him. Before Kazuya can respond to him, Rana shows up looking like a professional stepsister and asks about Kazuya's recovery. As Kazuya responds, Hiragi and Arthur read the room and leave the table for both of them. Afterward, Kazuya calls Rana using honorifics, but Rana takes offense at that and tells him to call her just Rana. When Kazuya does, Rana pushes her leg against his coctopus prime and her milk jugs against his chest. Then she sings happy noises when Kazuya calls her mommy. As they're about to kiss, Satella shows up looking pissed and embarrassed. Rana sees this, so she immediately gives Satella a glimpse of her honeypot, latches onto Kazuya, and acts lovey-dovey with him. Embarrassed, Kazuya calls Rana without honorifics, and although this makes Satella insanely jealous, she keeps cool and invites Kazuya to the roof for another important discussion. After they leave, Atiya shows up, sits beside Rana, introduces herself, and starts yapping about Satella and Kazuya's weird relationship. She tells Rana that, despite refusing to baptize Kazuya and officially become his partner, Satella is still leading him on into believing they are true partners, all because she wants Kazuya's independent ability to cast a freezing field all to herself. Once she is done using that power of his, Atiya claims that Saddle will toss Kazuya aside, find a new limiter, and repeat the same process. After the conversation, Rana processes everything Atiya told her and decides to make Satella her enemy. That night, she visits Satella's room unannounced and urges her to follow her somewhere. Meanwhile, Kazuya, who has been thinking about his relationship with Satella ever since, decides to visit her that night to ask how she truly feels about him. Not long after, Satella and Rana arrive at the Academy's gym, and Rana warns Satella to stay away from her Kazuya, claiming she has no right over him since she never baptized him. Shocked, Satella reminds Rana that Kazuya is already hers, but Rana asks why she hasn't baptized Kazuya yet if she truly feels that way about Kazuya. Embarrassed, Satella tells Rana she can't discuss something private with her, but as she turns to leave, Rana grabs her shoulder and demands that she respond to her. Irritated, Satella slaps Rana and tells her never to touch her, but Rana returns the slap immediately and decides to settle things with their fists, totally unaware that Atiya is watching them. Around the same time, Kazuya notices that Satella's not in her room, but as he tracks her, he overhears two girls yapping about seeing Satella and Rana in the gym and rushes there. Meanwhile, Satella and Rana charge at each other with their Volt weapons and begin fighting each other normally for the first few seconds. At one point, when Rana lunges at her, Satella disappears using Excel and knee kicks Rana in the cheek milliseconds later. After surviving the attack, Rana activates her ultimate technique, the Wings of Light, and stays in one place. Seeing this, Satella charges in for another attack, but something invisible hits and slams her into the wall. Following that, Rana gets up, her power oozing from her fists, and snitches on herself, telling Satella that she only activated her long-range floodgate technique. Satella just ignores her and lunges at her again, but when Rana counters her, she realizes that she has to learn the range of the technique. To do this, she intentionally takes a few more hits from Rana, but as Rana's about to land a finishing blow, she double accelerates in a split second, shocking even Atiya, and lands a ghastly attack on Rana. Impressed, Rana gets back up, repairs her clothes, and gets ready for round 2. Once it's time, they lunge at each other, and in a split second, Rana lets Satella stab her shoulder so she'll get within range for her next attack. Then, she activates her ultimate punch technique and sucker punches Satella into submission. Just seconds later, Satella gets back on her feet, raring for round 3. But by then, Kazuya shows up and tells Rana one more time that Satella is his partner. Rana argues that Satella is just using him, then begs Kazuya to become her limiter instead. However, just as Captain Save-A-Ho is about to defend his hoe, Atiya shows up with Arnett and Creo, complaining that Rana ruined their plan to destroy Satella, and decides to pick up where she left off. Shocked, Rana asks what plan she's talking about, and Atiya reveals that she told her all that nonsense earlier, so she'll destroy Satella for them. Hearing this, Kazuya tells Rana that he was aware of Satella's conditions before he became her limiter, prompting Rana to realize that she was being used. Moving on, Atiya mutters some jargon about maintaining the Academy's order and needing to teach Satella a lesson for humiliating Miyabi, but Satella tells her to shut up and come at her if she dares. Impressed, Atiya gives Satella the chance to choose whether she will fight Arnett or Creo, but Satella dares them both to come at her. Before they begin, Rana volunteers to take on one of them as payback for tricking her, but Kazuya steps in front and tries to stop them. Irritated, Arnett knocks him out cold, further aggravating Rana and Satella. Satella immediately attacks her, but Arnett dodges it, activates her Volt weapon, and waits for her next move. Meanwhile, Rana recalls the way Satella looked when Kazuya was knocked out and realizes that she genuinely cares about him. Just then, Arnett attacks Satella, but for some reason, the slash lands on her back instead, leaving Satella puzzled. As Rana stares in shock, Creo activates her Volt weapon and rushes her with a barrage of punches. Rana dodges them at first, but just as she is about to counterattack, Creo sucker punches her in the stomach, slamming her into the wall. Then she activates Tempest Turn and rips Rana's clothes off. At the same time, Satella uses Axel on Arnett, but Arnett easily evades her and knocks her down with multiple attacks from different directions. She then tells Satella that she uses double Axel to create afterimages of herself, which is why Satella can't trace her. But before Satella can respond, Attia shows up to gloat and warns her to apologize now. Satella refuses and lunges at Arnett with Excel on, but Arnett creates multiple afterimages of herself, confusing Satella, and ends up beating her down again. Afterward, she gives Satella one last chance to surrender, but when Satella still refuses, she slashes her chest, exposing her fun bags for you cultured men watching, and tells Creo and Attia that she's done. Hearing this, Attia gives Satella one last chance to apologize for her disrespect, so they can take her to the recovery center for treatment. But even on the verge of losing consciousness, Satella still refuses to admit defeat. Enraged, Attia orders Creo and Arnett to destroy Satella's stigmata, but they're scared that they'll be expelled from the school if the higher-ups find out. While Attia convinces them to obey her, Satella passes out and recalls a memory in her past, back when her younger self and her terminally ill mother first arrived at their family mansion. It turns out Satella was a wedlock child born out of an affair between her mom and the rich family head, so when they presented themselves before the real wife, she never accepted them as family. After the awkward introduction, Satella's half-siblings, Violet and a spoiled brat named Louis, show up to introduce themselves, but while Violet remains kind, Louis refuses to accept Satella as his sister. Over time, Louis started maltreating poor Satella in the yard, but when Violet found out, she tried to scold him, only to realize that their mother had already told the brat to treat Satella like she was his doll. Violet immediately confronted her mother for doing this, but the bitter woman told her she would never accept Satella. That night, Louis snuck into Satella's room and started touching her sensitive areas. The following day, Satella begged her mother to let them live somewhere else, but her sickly, stupid mother crashed out on her for trying to make her life harder and shunned her. A few years later, Violet finally catches Louis-ing Satella in her bed, so she slaps the life out of him and politely advises Satella to leave the house the following day. However, before she can do that, Satella learns that her mother has been hospitalized, so she rushes to the ICU. There, Satella begs her mother not to die yet, but her mom only apologizes for endangering her life because of her own mistakes, warns her never to admit defeat to anyone again, and dies right after. Back at present, Satella gets back on her feet, fueled by pure willpower and conviction never to lose, and summons Rana's wings of light on her back, leaving Attia and the other two in shock. Within seconds, Satella strikes Arnett with double XL and slams her into the wall, shocking Attia even further. While Creo is distracted, Rana punches her stomach, activates her void weapon, and attacks her. Meanwhile, Arnett tries to fight Satella with her double axle, but to her surprise, Satella triple axles, confusing her, and takes her down in a split second before collapsing. By then, Creo continues fighting Rana with Tempest Turn, but Rana activates her wings of light, creates 4 clones of herself, and takes each of Creo's clones out with her ultimate punch technique. Immediately after, she coughs up blood, signaling she's overexerted herself, and walks over to check on Satella, who is just waking up. Realizing that they're both at their limits, Attia decides to finish them off to win, but as she activates her void weapon, Arnett and Creo recover and urge her to let them take care of both of them. At that point, Chiffon shows up and orders them to stop the battle, but Arnett ignores her order and lunges at Satella and Rana. At this, Chiffon uses her illusion turn ability to teleport directly behind Attia and knock her down, leaving Attia and Creo in extreme shock. With the battle over, Chiffon asks Satella to take Kazuya to the recovery center, but Rana grows restless and tries to take him instead. Later that night, while Chiffon swims with the Academy's top-ranked third-year Pandora, Elizabeth, she reminds her that Satella is far stronger than an ordinary rank 4 third-year student. She then advises Elizabeth to resolve things with Satella amicably instead of relying on brute force, and informs her that their principal, Margaret, told her earlier that something dangerous is coming, but Elizabeth remains silent. Later that night, Kazuya wakes up in the infirmary to find Satella and Rana beside him, looking worried. He immediately tries to apologize for getting involved, even though there was little he could do, but instead of thanking him for trying to save her, Satella trash-talks him for risking his life for her. Pissed, Rana tells Satella that Kazuya only jumped in to save her, and that she shouldn't be so harsh on him, but instead of apologizing, Satella leaves. Afterward, Rana starts glazing Kazuya for being her hero, and even swears that one day she will be bound to him by both love and baptism. Outside, Satella condemns what she did, despite being genuinely happy that Kazuya tried to save her, and wishes she had handled things better. The next day, during lunch, Hiragi and Arthur inform Kazuya that the Academy's prom is happening in a few days, adding that it is an event meant for students to relax and for partners to deepen their affection for one another. They then tell Kazuya about the lewd beauty pageant, where students vote for the winner and crown her the year's Pandora Queen, and add that Elizabeth won the title the previous year. Hearing this, Kazuya spots Elizabeth sitting across from him and smiles, but to his surprise, Elizabeth smiles back and leaves with her limiter. Moments later, while chilling by the pool with her peers, Elizabeth orders Tia, Creo, and Arnett that they'll be leaving Satella alone because she's acknowledging Satella's strength in preparation for what's coming. Naturally, the trio protest against this, but to avoid going against Elizabeth's orders, Tia decides to personally mete out Satella's punishment by bullying her instead. Meanwhile, Satella hurries to meet with Kazuya to apologize for the other night, but as she arrives at the cafeteria, she finds Rana asking Kazuya out to prom and stays to eavesdrop. With Kazuya in shock, Rana asks if he's already asked Satella out, but when he says no, she grabs his hand and asks him to go with her instead. At that point, Satella shows up, causing Arthur and Hiraji to leave, and shyly tells Rana that she and Kazuya will be attending prom together. Rana immediately fires back and then trash-talks Satella for being completely oblivious, but before another fight breaks out, Kazuya tells Rana that he'll be going out with Satella. Hearing this, Rana concedes defeat, but tells Kazuya she won't give up on him yet and kisses him just to spite Satella. On prom night, while picking out an outfit, Satella recalls Rana pecking Kazuya earlier and grows very jealous. As she continues getting dressed, Kazuya knocks on her door, and Satella hurriedly rushes to open it, only to trip over him. As they fall, Kazuya accidentally grabs her right melon.
Yeah, boy.
But almost instantly, they let go of each other. At that moment, Tia shows up and introduces herself. As the event begins, Yumi and Elise chill in one of the upper floors and ask Chiffon, who's near them, if Principal Margaret will be coming. Chiffon tells her she's not seen her yet, and Yume says it's probably because she's busy attending important meetings to discuss the unusual dimensional vibrations that have been occurring non-stop recently. Since no useful information has been given about their nature yet, Yume urges Chiffon and her assistant to enjoy their night, and Chiffon promises to do so. Meanwhile, Tia tells Satella that she's challenging Satella to another brawl, but just as Kazuya steps between them, thinking Tia wanted to fight again, Tia chuckles and reveals that she's only challenging Satella to a challenge involving the Pandora Queen. With Kazuya and Satella shocked, Tia exposes her seductive maid outfit.
Wow! Beautiful!
And tells Satella that whoever gets the highest votes between them wins. At this, Satella accepts the challenge, flaunting her melons, and Tia leaves embarrassed. Not long after, the beauty pageant begins, and Ganesa is the first to be called up on stage. After showcasing her slender curves to the thirsty boys, Miyabi is called up next and does the same. Meanwhile, Satella gets cold feet and tells Kazuya that she can't go on stage. As Kazuya tries to cheer her up, Rana shows up wearing barely anything, shows off her curves to Kazuya, and asks why Satella is participating in such a lewd competition. After Kazuya explains everything, Rana shows off her curves to Tia as she arrives to intimidate Satella, then reminds Satella that a Pandora's honor is also her limiter's honor and walks onto the stage. Once Rana's done showcasing her curves, the host calls Satella out to showcase herself. After nervously walking to the stage, Satella's brain goes into airplane mode as she runs out of poses to entertain her audience. Thanks to her big knockers, the boys all cheer for her, and Satella immediately runs off stage in embarrassment. Not long after, the host calls the defending champion, Elizabeth, to showcase herself to the audience, and she does so graciously. After the pageant, the slow dancing begins. Kazuya happily dances with his queen, Satella, and thanks her deeply for honoring him by participating in the beauty pageant. Overwhelmed by her emotions, Satella is just about to suggest that she baptize Kazuya, but the host ruins the mood by calling everyone to listen to the pageant results. To begin, the host names Ganesa the fourth runner-up, then moves on to announce Rana as the third runner-up. As Rana hugs Kazuya to celebrate, the host announces Tia as the second runner-up and Elizabeth as the first runner-up, shocking everyone. As anticipation peaks, the host announces Satella as the winner of the beauty pageant with an astounding number of votes, leaving both Satella and Kazuya stunned. While the students flock to congratulate Satella, Tia quietly withdraws from the event, meets with two other girls, and convinces them to make Satella wear a very bizarre outfit for the winner's ceremony. Before long, those girls drag Satella from the crowd and take her in to get dressed. Seconds later, Satella walks on stage wearing see-through lingerie that exposes her Kardashian-level milk jugs and cake to the inconsolable simps watching her. Once she realizes what's happening, she cowers in embarrassment. Seeing this, Kazuya gets so pissed at whoever did this that he casts a freezing area on the entire spot, immobilizing everyone, grabs Satella off the stage, and runs away with her. The following week, the strongest Pandora from the Academy's East Branch, Cassie, partakes in a simulated mock battle alongside her limiter against two Novas and easily defeats them using quadruple Excel. After completing the test, she looks up at Kazuya in the overhead control room and smiles when he nods at her. Back at Kazuya's academy, Satella spaces out, thinking about Kazuya because she misses him, until Rana shows up and asks if she was just thinking about Kazuya. Embarrassed, Satella denies it, but Rana calls Cap because it's written all over her face. Meanwhile, Kazuya and Margaret meet with Cassie and her instructor to discuss a few things before they leave. After some small talk, Margaret tells Kazuya that Cassie is one of the Pandoras who inherited his sister's stigmata after she died to save everyone, which is why she's so nervous around him, and Cassie herself humbly thanks Kazuya on behalf of his sister, Kazuha. Kazuya is flustered because he's used to being a loser, but as they continue discussing, Cassie says she's going to retire soon and hand over Kazuya's stigmata to someone worthy. Confused, Kazuya asks why, and she nervously tells him it's because she wants to fulfill her childhood dream of becoming a novelist. After some silence, Cassie asks Kazuya if he thinks she's weird, but Kazuya reassures her that he approves of her decision, leaving her surprised. Later that evening, as Margaret and Kazuya fly back to their academy, Margaret expresses her sadness over Cassie's decision. When Kazuya asks why, she explains that Kazuya was a Pandora who housed over 20 stigmata in her body, making her incredibly powerful. However, after Kazuha died, Cassie became one of the few Pandoras who showed a high compatibility rate with her stigmata, leaving Kazuya puzzled. Back at the Eastern Branch, her instructor asks why she keeps insisting on quitting right before graduating. At first, Cassie blames her father for making her enroll to further his political career, but after sugarcoating stuff, she admits it's because she doesn't have the balls to fight real novas. Shocked, the instructor asks her to elaborate, and Cassie basically tells her she lacks that iron-forged heart and will to oppose any threat. Explaining further, she then narrates her fight with Satella from 1 year ago, claiming that was the event that confirmed her cowardice. On that day, when Cassie found Satella standing over her limiter's unconscious body, she fiercely attacked Satella and easily defeated her. However, even after the battle was over, Satella refused to bow to her, and this made Cassie realize that Satella had something she lacked: 2 giant metal balls. Eventually, the other third-year students rushed in and knocked Satella unconscious, but Cassie says that if help hadn't arrived then, Satella would have destroyed her. Back on Kazuya's plane, Margaret reveals that Satella also possesses 6 of Kazuya's stigmata despite being incompatible with them, and Kazuya realizes that this must be why Satella always looked like his sister. Around the same time, the alarm at the Eastern Academy is activated, signaling a Nova attack, and almost immediately, several Pandoras and Limiters are instructed to change into their combat gear and gather at the auditorium for a briefing. There, the commander tells them they're facing 4 Type S Novas, and then broadcasts a live feed of the battle scene, with Margaret, Yumi, and Elise also watching from the other academy. Upon realizing that conventional military weapons aren't working against them, the commander orders every Pandora and Limiter, including Cassie, to be deployed to the battlefield. Meanwhile, Hiragi and Arthur approach Kazuya while he strolls, update him about the situation at the Eastern Academy, and ask if he thinks the Nova will come to their school. Before Kazuya responds, Arthur tells them he and Ganesa will destroy them. When Hiragi tells him that's not possible, given that Ganesa is a second year, Arthur tells her that the commander at the Eastern Academy mobilized undergraduates too. An hour later, as the 4 Novas progress further into their city, the commander stations decoys, strikers, and finisher Pandora and Limiters in place to wait for her signal. Once it comes, the decoys single out a Nova mecha and attack it so the strikers can get higher. To defend itself, the Nova releases a freezing area, but the Limiters neutralize it with theirs, prompting the strikers to swoop in and destroy the core's protector. With the core exposed, Cassie, the lead finisher, activates Quadruple Excel and runs towards the core to destroy it, but the Nova smacks her off its body before she can. Unfortunately, as they're about to repeat the same attack pattern, the Nova gathers tons of energy at its core. Then, it fires a devastating plasma beam that obliterates the entire platoon, leaving Margaret, the commander, and several others watching in extreme shock. In the aftermath, Margaret receives orders from HQ to mobilize reinforcements from her academy. Hearing this, Satella walks back to her dorm, pissed, but on the way, she stops and eavesdrops as Arthur asks Kazuya if he's going to pair up with her and fight if the Novas attack them, even if she hasn't baptized him yet. In response, Kazuya tells Arthur that he'll fight with Satella because she's special. When asked why he thinks so, he tells them that he saw Kazuha and Satella the first time he laid eyes on her, and adds that he just found out that Satella inherited 6 of his sister's stigmata. At this, Hiragi and Arthur ask if Kazuya is pairing with Satella because she looks like his sister, but before he can respond, Satella leaves. Back on the battlefield, Cassie watches her colleagues writhe in pain as many of them are either missing a limb or bleeding profusely, and freezes in shock. Just then, the Nova grabs her with its tentacles, places her on its body, alongside a few other survivors, rips off her clothes, and starts absorbing them into its body. As a last resort, Cassie activates quadruple excel to escape, but it doesn't work, as the Nova successfully absorbs her into its body. Back at Kazuya's academy, Satella arrives in her room, panting and sobbing, scared that Kazuya only chose her to be his sister's replacement, not his partner. Moments later, Yume, Eliza, and Margaret all meet in the control room to analyze the weird things these Novas have done since they arrived. As they brainstorm possible reasons why, an alert on their systems suddenly chirps in, signaling that energy signatures of all 4 Novas have disappeared. Meanwhile, Satella is in her bathroom, constantly thinking back to what she heard Kazuya say earlier, when the school's alarm suddenly blares on and alerts every single student on campus. As it turns out, the 4 Novas just appeared at the academy and are trying to surround it. Realizing that the attack on the Eastern Academy was just a diversion, Yume, Elize, and Margaret immediately analyze the Nova's movement patterns and discover that they're at their academy branch to search for something. Knowing this, they inform all Pandoras and Limiters on campus to equip their combat gear and gather at the conference for a mission briefing. There, Yume updates everyone on the situation, tells them that many of their Pandoras are currently at the Eastern Academy, providing support, and adds that she'll be reorganizing those remaining to defend every gate. Having said that, she instructs second-year students and their limiters to remain on standby for now, and dismisses everyone. Shortly after the meeting, Kazuya approaches Satella and urges her to follow him to the standby room, but Satella coldly rejects him and walks away. As Kazuya tries to call her back, Rana shows up, grabs his arm, and tells Satella that she will be pairing with Kazuya instead, causing Satella to stop. Just as she is about to continue walking, Rana tells her that she has finally lost their battle over Kazuya and urges her to admit it. Unable to do so, Satella turns back, and the two activate their void weapons for a quick brawl over Kazuya. As they charge at each other, Kazuya stops them, trash talks them for being so immature in such a dire situation, and tells Satella that his sister was just as stubborn as she is, causing both of them to calm down. Meanwhile, Yume's and Elize's platoons arrive on the battlefield in Humvees. Each singles out a Nova and rushes to ambush it. Once Elize's squad gets close enough, she activates her void weapon, but to her surprise, the Nova spots them quickly and drops all the Pandoras it absorbed back at the Eastern Academy, including Cassie. Only this time, each of them has a giant stigmata on their chest and back that overrides their bodies and controls them to do the Nova's bidding. After they materialize, the rogue Pandoras activate Double Excel and immediately begin running towards the Academy gates, but Elize orders her squad to stop them, while she and a few others take care of the Nova that drop them. While she works on that, Yume finds out about Elize's situation on the radio and is urged to assist her if she can. By then, her strikers expose the core of the Nova they're fighting, so she hangs up and destroys the Nova's core herself. Meanwhile, Miyabi and some other second-year students are at the Academy's eastern gate, defending it, when the rogue Pandoras suddenly saw through it like butter. Realizing that they're truly after what's inside the Academy's nucleotide, Margaret orders all third years currently defending the other gates to head to the eastern gate immediately, and then tells them how to identify those rogue Pandoras once they get there. Hearing this, Satella and Rana ignore Kazuya's warnings to follow orders and rush towards the gate. Back at the eastern gate, the rogue Pandoras activate their weapons and charge past Miyabi and the others stationed there, but Miyabi refuses to let them go so easily. She activates her homing daggers and attacks them, only for the rogue Pandoras to slam her into a wall with a powerful explosion and continue running towards the inner chamber. Meanwhile, Kazuya grabs Satella, refusing to let go, and demands to know why she's suddenly being so mean to him. Nervous, Satella tells him she's not a substitute for his sister, causing Kazuya to realize that she overheard his conversation with Arthur and Hiragi earlier. Sadly, as he's about to explain himself, the control room orders Ganesa, Satella, and Rana, alongside their limiters, to report to the nucleotide, and they immediately start moving. There, Margaret rides the elevator with them down to the lowest level of the facility and tells them, while they tour the place, to help protect the nucleotide at all costs. Before long, they arrive in front of two large doors, and Margaret tells them that the rogue Pandoras are after the sacred body that's hidden beyond the doors. Having said that, she opens the door, walks in, closes it, and stares at the glowing female carcass with white hair, suspended in a stasis pod. Still outside, Satella explains to everyone that the sacred body is the remains of a person named Maria, who is said to have given birth to the Pandoras. It's then revealed that humanity mass-produced the stigmata that resided in the carcass and transplanted them into women to create Pandoras. As Margaret continues staring, the rogue Pandoras successfully invade the nucleotide and ride the elevator down to their level. Seeing this, Control immediately places the entire facility's basement system on lockdown. But when the quick-footed rogue Pandoras evade the security measures, They move on to reroute the Pandoras all to a single room called Area C and trap them there. Afterward, Control fills the entire room with sleeping gas to neutralize them. Initially, their plan works, but at the last minute, the stigmata on the rogue Pandora's chests glow bright red, blow a hole in one of the doors, and direct them to keep pushing on. Seeing this, Control warns Margaret and the other students guarding the basement of what's coming, so they'll act accordingly. Back outside, while Elise struggles to defend against the enemy Nova's tentacles, Yumi shows up to help her out. Meanwhile, Margaret returns to the control room to find out that the Pandoras are still charging towards the preservation room, where Maria's remains are being kept and are fast approaching Atia, Ingrid, Creo, and Arnett. Scared, she pings every Pandora in the basement, including Satella's group, tells them that the Novas are after Maria's remains, although they don't know why, and begs them to protect Maria's remains from falling into the Nova's hands, or else humanity is doomed. Hearing this, Satella quickly realizes that they're in a safe zone, since the third-year students are above them, and advises that they all safeguard themselves and the remains as well. Once she's done talking, Ganessa and Rana stare at Satella like she's a ghost, and tell her that she's been a bit talkative lately, leaving Satella a bit embarrassed. Around the same time, Arnett, Creo, Atia, and Ingrid all activate their void weapons and station their limiters behind them, as they wait for the rogue Pandoras to show up. Once they do, the rogue Pandoras activate Excel to escape, but the limiters immediately cast a freezing area to immobilize all of them. Seconds later, the rogue Pandoras break out of the freezing area and take out the limiters using their stigmata. Seeing this, Atia and the others immediately attack them, but while they manage to hold down some, two rogue Pandoras push past them. Scared, they consider chasing after the ones that escaped, but Margaret orders them to keep the ones they're fighting at bay, as there are currently other Pandoras protecting the area. Before long, both rogue Pandoras run into Elizabeth and her limiter up front, and immediately cast a freezing area to hold her down. Once her limiter neutralizes the area with his freezing, Elizabeth strikes the big stigmata crystal on the first one's chest with a plasma beam and knocks her down. Afterward, she reports to Margaret that destroying the stigma on their chest reverts their corrupted bodies to their human form without murdering them, and Control immediately relays this information to every other Pandora aside from Satella's group. At this, Ingrid and the other two begin striking and destroying the stigma crystals on their enemies' chests until they return them all to their human form. Meanwhile, as Elizabeth's about to neutralize the second rogue Pandora, the Pandora lets off a huge energy explosion and melts her way through the ground to get to the lowest level, where Satella's group is. As stabs Rana's shoulder and pins her to the wall, Satella and Kazuya immediately recognize her to be Cassie. Just then, Rana activates her void weapon, destroys Cassie's tentacles, and pushes her away. Immediately after, Cassie regrows her destroyed tentacle, activates double Axel, and tries to escape, but Rana and Satella chase after with Axel on, too. Since she can't use Excel, Ganessa tries fighting Cassie with her void weapons, but just as Cassie outmaneuvers and attacks her, Rana takes the hit and tries to hold Cassie down. Just then, Cassie traps Rana in her freezing area, but Kazuya neutralizes it with his freezing and saves her. Pissed, Cassie casts freezing again and charges at Kazuya. Satella immediately jumps in front to save her boyfriend, but Cassie slaps her away. Kazuya then tries to help Satella, but she coldly rejects him because of their beef and decides to take on Cassie herself. She activates double Axel and charges at Cassie, but Cassie surpasses her speed and slashes her body multiple times. Afterward, Cassie moves towards the preservation room, but when Satella grabs her leg to stop her, she stabs Satella in the back. Out of desperation, Satella activates Rana's wings of light and Tempest turn. Then she stabs Cassie's chest stigma, but doesn't destroy it. After the attack, Cassie regains a part of herself and says something, which surprises Satella and Kazuya. But before they understand what's going on, the chest stigma comes back up and she regains control over her body. Seeing this, Satella goes all out and attacks Cassie with a double Axel ultimate. When Cassie outmaneuvers that strike, she activates triple Excel and attacks Cassie, but again, Cassie upgrades to quadruple Excel and slams Satella to the wall. Thankfully, as she's about to finish her, Kazuya immobilizes her with his freezing and uses Talk no Jutsu to get through to Cassie's head. This works as Cassie recalls their first memory together and returns to her senses, but it doesn't last long, because her chest stigma immediately tries to take over again. When Kazuya amps up his freezing to overwhelm the stigma, Satella tells him to stop, claiming she doesn't need him, but he tells her he doesn't care because he wants to protect her as his partner, not his sister's substitute. Upon hearing this, Satella gets an epiphany and realizes that whatever reason Kazuya had to choose her, the fact still remains that she would never have met him or had a partner if he didn't come into her life. This realization sparks an emotional reaction so strong that she returns to her senses and slowly overpowers Cassie. Just then, Cassie slams Kazuya into the wall and attacks Satella. However, at the last minute, Cassie regains a part of her humanity and fights the chest stigma, making her want to murder people. As the stigma fights back, Cassie writhes in pain as she sheds tears of blood and begs Satella to save her from herself, only for her to turn into a ticking time bomb. Back upstairs, as Aunt Tia and the others approach Elizabeth, the first rogue Pandora she took down suddenly gets back up, still under the stigma's control, and digs her way into the preservation room. As she approaches Maria's stasis pod, Chiffon and her vice president arrive alongside their limiters, fully geared up to stop her. Back outside, as Cassie finally explodes, Ganessa steps in front of Satella and takes the blast. In the aftermath, Satella spots Ganessa standing in front of her, her right arm falling off, and gasps in shock as she falls and bleeds. Arthur immediately runs over to his beloved Pandora, screaming, and demands to know why she protected Satella. When Ganessa tells him she was just doing her duty, he piggybacks her and tries to take her to the recovery center, but on the way, he trips and drops her. Scared, he tries to carry her again, only to find out that she is no longer responsive. Kazuya tries telling him that Ganessa might be gone, but as Arthur fights him, Cassie tries to attack again. This time, Satella blocks her and finds herself crying over Ganessa, which felt weird to her because they were sworn enemies. Enraged, she pushes her limits as a Pandora and raises her stigmata level so high that she becomes a Nova in human form. Seeing this, Cassie lunges at her, but when Satella blocks it, she activates Quadruple Axle to confuse her. To everyone's surprise, not only did Satella block all her after-image attacks, but the moment Cassie gets close enough, Satella slams her into the wall, smashes her head against it, cuts off both her arms, pins her to the ground, and rips her chest stigma out. Now back to her human self, Cassie begs Satella to finish her off, but as Satella is about to do that, Kazuya hugs her from behind and begs her not to murder Cassie, especially now that she's back to normal. Hearing this, Satella hesitates for a split second, but as her stigma tries to overwhelm her again, she slams her void weapon into the ground, sparing Cassie, and powers down. Shortly after, Ganessa's body twitches, signaling that she's alive, and Kazuya and Rana immediately rush over to give her first aid. Meanwhile, Cassie asks Satella why she didn't finish her off earlier, and Satella tells her that she simply didn't want to disappoint Kazuya because he taught her what Pandoras like them should live for, leaving Cassie puzzled. Not long after, Elizabeth, Ingrid, and the others rush over, realize that Satella's group has already taken care of the threat, and praise them. Back inside the preservation room, Chiffon and her partners take down the other rogue Pandora and celebrate their victory a bit too early, unaware that the Pandora's chest stigmata is still blinking. Back outside the academy, as Yume and Eleze are about to destroy the final Nova, it suddenly disappears, only to appear inside the preservation room a few seconds later, leaving everybody in extreme shock. Without hesitating, Margaret pings everyone in there and begs them to protect Maria's remains from the Nova by any means necessary. Afterward, Chiffon, Satella, Rana, Tia, and every other Pandora there, alongside their limiters, approach the Nova and activate their void weapons. However, just as they are about to sortie, Satella's left hand begins glowing bright red. Before she realizes what's happening, the glow spreads across her body, and a massive stigmata crystal appears from her chest, causing her to scream. Although Kazuya rushes to help her, Satella transforms into a mindless Nova and casts freezing on everyone there, immobilizing them. After that, the Nova slowly continues toward Maria's stasis pod and extends its tentacles to destroy it. Unable to let that happen, Elizabeth and the other Pandoras activate Pandora mode, allowing them to move within the freezing field and prepare for another battle. Unfortunately for them, Satella casts an even stronger freezing field that forces them out of Pandora mode and pins them down, buying the Nova enough time to reach Maria's remains. At that moment, Satella's subconscious cries out to Kazuya for help. For some reason, Kazuya hears her, neutralizes Satella's freezing field with his own, and speaks to her mind, urging her to remember who she is. Thanks to their connection, Satella's subconscious hears Kazuya and slowly runs toward the light within her mind. Along the way, she sees Kazuya, who asks her to protect those who are special to her with the stigmata she was granted. At that moment, Satella unleashes a massive burst of energy as she gradually regains control of her body. While she slowly recovers, Kazuya evolves his freezing field into an Aaron bar set, the stuff that connects limiters to Pandoras, and slowly replenishes everyone's strength. Once they're back at full strength, the Pandoras charge at the Nova, cut off all its tentacles, expose its core, and force it to lie down. Afterward, Satella strikes the core with her void weapon, destroying the Nova, and finally completes the mission. In the aftermath, when Satella tries to tell Kazuya that she saw Kazuha in her subconscious, she accidentally falls on him, her melons out for all to see, and shrieks in embarrassment when she finds out. As the sun rises, the heroes and heroines walk back to the surface, and Cassie and her instructor return to the Eastern Academy. On the way there, Cassie tells her instructor that she's changed her mind and will continue being a Pandora. Shocked, the instructor asks why, and she explains that she's finally learned how to live as a Pandora. Back on the ground, Rana and Hiraji grab Kazuya and walk him to Ganesa's ward, only to find Satella already there, checking up on her. As Ganesa roasts Satella for breaking character, Satella embarrassingly thanks her for saving her, tells Kazuya to come to her room that night, and walks away. By nightfall, Kazuya visits Satella's room with Rana, only to find her on the ground, with her melons and cake out, as she searches for something to wear. Convinced that this was planned, Rana also strips down and showcases her chocolate knockers and buns, so Kazuya chooses her instead. This brings us to the end of the video. What do you think happens next for Kazuya and his beloved, Satella? Will the Novas attack again? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want more anime recaps like these, watch this video instead.